Welcome. Good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. A quorum is present. So the June 16th meeting of the Board of Health is now open. Agenda has been previously distributed. Just to remind you all that this meeting is being audio and visually recorded. Are there any comments from the public on any issue that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. The minutes for May 19th. Terry, you had some yellow things.
I was missing something.
They were just the confirmation of the names. There was an updated minutes that were sent out right after the other minutes. It was a confirmation of Mr. Cochran's name and our two interns' names, Ms. Sober and Ospelt.
So we're all clear on
it.
Those
Should
names.
Be all clear.
Are there any?
So the updated copy just didn't make it in the packet?
It didn't make it out, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Are there any comments on the minutes? Addition, corrections for the May 19th meeting? Hearing none, those are approved by unanimous consent. The special meeting of June 6th, which was our presentation on mice. These minutes are brief, but I think the key is the tape, because certainly it would be very hard to minute the professor's whole speech.
Yes.
So anyone can take the time and see it. It's quite interesting, and as I said, I'm in the process of at least trying to put a draft plan of various approvals and no-goes as he moves forward. Or if he moves forward, we will see.
It is up and running, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Good. So, any objections, additions to those brief minutes of the special meeting on mice?
No.
Hearing none, those are approved. Mice seems to be a hot topic in this area right now, and Roberto and I again spoke this afternoon with a company that's sometime this year will be approving or get approval for pellets that you can put around the island or your yard that actually will immunize the mice. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. A multi-pronged approach is the best way to go.
So we will...
What are we immunizing them?
Lyme disease.
Oh, against Lyme disease itself.
Yes. So the mice...
Why don't we immunize us? Let's get on with it.
There is a vaccine. It was withdrawn from the market, and I will explain the whole scenario afterwards.
It sounds very depressing.
It's extremely depressing because the vaccine was about 80% effective, but...
Yeah, I remember talking to some people. They were from Germany. They said, well, we get a shot
there's
every
Germany.
once in a while, and everything's hunky-dory. But in this country, can't be done.
So go to Germany, and you can write off the plane as a medical expense.
Great idea.
See how the IRS takes that. Okay, so moving on. Item 5, variance request for 280, 282, 284 Pulposus Road.
Yes, so this is a variance request from Regulation 64 from Ms. Rhoda Weinman regarding the above-mentioned properties, and I'll go ahead and allow them to explain
Yes, please.
the nature of it.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this one.
Go right ahead.
Turn on your mic.
Go ahead, please. Just introduce yourself. And
Thank you. For the record, I'm Rhoda Weinman, and I'm requesting a variance under the 6407 Town Board of Health regulations. If I may, I'd like to just add a little bit to the letter in the application that I submitted, and I'll be brief. My husband and I own 280, 282, and 284 Pulposus Road. We purchased the property in 1988. and built a house on 280, which we've resided in, just the two of us, since 1989. 284 we purchased at the same time. It's a one-bedroom, and the house that we live in is a 6-bedroom septic system. We have 3 bedrooms, occupy 1. The cottage is a 3-bedroom septic system. It has 1 bedroom, and it's not occupied at all. We attempted at one point to rent it to a visiting doctor from the hospital, and it just wasn't winterized enough to be a year-round rental, so there's no one in it now, and we use it just for an occasional guest. Excuse me. The third parcel is at 282 Pulposus Road. That's a vacant lot. It's never been built upon. As long as we live in the property and own it, it will never be built upon. There are some wetlands at 282 Pulposus, but that we bought that really for privacy because it abuts the other 2 lots that we own. For a total, the 3 lots have 361,533 square feet. So if I just look at the regs and look at one house, 1 bedroom, I should say, per 10,000 square feet, based on that, we could have 36 bedrooms. We have a total of 4 bedrooms. 1 of the 4 is occupied, and there are 2 people that have lived there since the day that we built the house in 1989. We have no intentions of selling the property. We expect to live there as long as we're able to live there. And I understand the regulations. I think that this situation is unique because of the amount of land that we have, and because there are 2 people living there. I understand that if and when we ever sell the property, we have to put in a new system. I have every intention of doing that, and I would certainly be willing to have you have any variance relief that you may see fit to grant today, subject to us putting a new IE system in if and when we sell the property. I'd also be willing to have some language in the relief that we would be more than willing to do inspections for every 3 years rather than every 5 years that's required to make sure that there's no hydraulic failure in the system. I'm sure that as a board, as most boards are, that you may be concerned about setting a precedent. I think that this situation is really unique. I don't think that you'll see an application before you with 2 people living on 9 acres and in 1 bedroom when we can possibly have a potential of 36 bedrooms. I would ask you to please consider the unique situation and circumstances of this request. I feel that it's fair and equitable, and I would ask you to grant us the variance with the conditions that I'm more than happy to agree to. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and Paul Santos is here with me if you have technical questions, which I can't answer.
Okay, so this is a technical failure?
Yes, and I'm sorry, one thing I didn't say is the dwelling that we live in is 5.6 feet. We missed the 6 feet. It obviously was fine when we bought the property and built on it. There was the 5-foot regulation then, and the cottage is at 5 feet. So we would like to be able to keep it at that until we sell the property, and again, we would be willing to inspect it more frequently.
Just a couple questions,
Sure.
and then I'll go to the board. We at one point talked about when it was like close to 6 feet. Did we set some kind of rounding rule?
Yes.
What was that?
We granted a variance to Mr. Kaiser, to Pete Kaiser's property. They had a 0.1 separation based on the Horsley-Witten maps.
Yeah, okay.
And I believe that the second cottage is within that 0.1. The other one is 5.6.
So it's 0.4.
Yeah.
Is it? What about seasonal changes?
I don't think we set any policy on seasonal.
But, what about this is right by the water?
Yes. I believe the Horsley-Witten map puts this water separation at the 4.95, which is rounded up to the 5, and the other one at 5.53, which we rounded up to this 5.6. and that is based on 1988 water test, soil test data. 1988 soil test data. So 28-year-old
What
data.
is it in 2016?
We haven't had any water tests on the property or surrounding it any time in recent years. We do had, I think we checked two. This is 285. We checked one of the neighboring properties recently in 2005, I believe, and that did not meet the 5-foot separation based on a observation hole.
Questions from the board?
Well, I got one question is, does it matter how many acres they have if the separation isn't what it needs to be?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve. If in this case we are in the watershed district, the separation whether it's 4 feet, 5 feet, it's all about the strength of the effluent that's coming out. If you have a very high and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, if you have a high biochemical oxygen demand based on high use and the type of use, separation is extremely important based on what's coming out and whether the biomat is doing denitrification and removing a lot of it. The other part is, so that's the strength of the effluent. But in general, we look at soils in Title V differently today. We look for models, redox reactions, reduction and oxidation reactions. It's a technique that wasn't used 30 years ago.
Well, the reason I'm asking that question is they say they have 36 acres. If for some reason
No.
they get a variance, we give them a variance, and the guy next door has 22 acres. We have to say to him, we can't give you a variance because you need at least 36 acres to get the same.
This is nine
My
acres.
problem is the separation this way, or does the scope of the land cut into this in any way we make a decision?
No, this one's 9 acres. It's not 36 acres. She can have 36 bedrooms based on square feet. It's 360,000 square
29
feet.
acres. Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
However, yes, separation is important. Separation is very important. If you have a 4-bedroom septic system 2 feet from groundwater and a 4-bedroom septic system 60 feet from groundwater with, depending on the use, you can be dumping a lot of effluent into the groundwater. If there's, let's say it's a 4-bedroom septic system that's based on 8-person occupancy, if 8 people are in a house using the water constantly, it will be reaching the groundwater a lot quicker and a lot less diluted if you have 2 feet of separation versus 20 feet of separation.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Technical versus hydraulic failure.
Technical failure is the separation to the groundwater. Hydraulic failure is anything from a failed leaching system backing up into the bathrooms, a cracked tank, whole nine, crushed D-box.
The system is functioning.
Yeah, in this case, the system is functioning.
Correct.
So the groundwater, once you get to it, whether it's 5 feet or 6 feet, it flows presumably to the harbor. Is the issue?
It is in the
groundwater
watershed,
didn't
yes.
flow anyplace, that would be a different matter.
Exactly, it is in the watershed.
Yeah.
We are not near the water. There's a 30-acre lot in front of us.
Yeah,
but
I'm looking
so,
at the map.
No, I
right?
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got you. I mean, I think there is some elements here which we dealt with earlier, and some other ones. The distance from the site to the water is, but if it's in the watershed, it's in the watershed.
It's in the watershed. And remember,
And this is an A, not B. I'm pretty
It's
sure.
in A and B.
Yeah,
when
It's
we
in
talked
both.
about,
It's in both.
remember, not far from there, North Pasture,
Right.
there was a change of sale, and we
So, but this isn't a change.
This is not a change of
This
sale.
is a failure, and it's a
not-
technical failure, right? I mean,
It's
I
technical.
assume the
Separation.
reason we're here, you must have, maybe we got to go back a little bit. Why are you here?
I'm here because I got a
Did you
letter
fail-
on
Did you fail
September.
inspection or?
No. I'm
No.
here because I got a letter on September 11th, by September 11th or whatever the September date is, that I have to put a brand new system in. And with 2 people living in 1 bedroom with the size of the property, I don't think we're contributing to the problem. And I'm asking until we sell the property, can we get a variance? That's why I'm here.
It's helpful to know. So you got a letter from the Board of Health
Correct.
that said within 20 days or within some period of time.
Well, it was by next September, but I
You're
didn't.
supposed to put in an IA system?
Correct.
That's what the letter says?
Yes.
Okay. Just to be clear,
And
I
what-
didn't hear that to start the conversation.
what-
And I didn't get any notice. I assumed there was a notice in the paper, but there weren't any notice to the people in the district
And why,
that there was going to be a
and
letter.
why was the letter sent?
The letter was sent to tell me that I was in the watershed district and that I had to have an IA system by next September.
Yes, we had it on our records that at an inspection it was
They
marked
had
as a
an
technical
inspection, it was
failure.
marked as technical failure.
Mm.
And
Correct.
I got you.
So, the other question I have that we have to think of is the people next door, and then the people next door, and then the people next door coming down the road here.
So I just got to make sure. I want to sort of say it again. So you had an inspection which was required by us, and you failed on these technical grounds, and therefore we sent a letter and said, because of that technical failure, or any failure, I guess, technical or hydraulic, you're required to put in an IA system. That's
Yeah, per regulation
The
64.
Regulation 64.
yeah, okay. And have we issued any waivers to that? You mentioned one, but in the Harbor Watershed District, for people who have had an inspection, I just want to make sure I get the parameters correct, had an inspection and failed for technical reasons, how many have, do you know offhand, how many in that situation have received the letter and been required to install an IA system and have proceeded to do so? And how many have received that letter and asked for a waiver and received a waiver or were denied the waiver?
Artel actually has our records.
Is that sort of the parameters? I think we all ought to know what we're dealing
Exactly.
with.
Yeah, Art's the keeper of our record book.
Art Crowley Health Department. We have, with this property, we have 24 technical failures from Gardner Road out.
Yep.
We have issued 25 IA permits since September 1st, 2015, none of which are these 24. And all of these 24 have been sent a letter, and we'll be sending the end of this month a reminder letter and another reminder in July, because September 1 is the deadline. And to my knowledge, nobody has asked for and received a variance. The only thing closest to this would be 19 North Pasture, as Dr. McNabb has stated.
That was a transfer.
There was a transfer.
That was a transfer, correct.
So of the 25 permits we've issued, some have been installed, some haven't. They have permits. None of them were the result of inspection failures, it sounds like. They were, is that what I heard you say?
Property transfers and building permits.
Right, but not failures on inspection.
Nope.
Okay, gotcha. So this is the first.
This is.
Thank you.
Do you anticipate more?
23.
Depending on what you do today.
I know that's 24 is a lot of. That's a lot.
I guess I just have a little bit of a problem with what Mr. Crowley just said, because I don't think, I mean, I know I've lived in that neighborhood now for 30 years, and I don't think you're going to find anybody else that's going to come before you and ask for a variance where there are two people living on a property that can have 36 bedrooms and we use one. I just think it's, and I guess that's the only reason I'm here, is because I think we have a unique situation. And I'd ask you to please look at it as a unique situation and not think that the floodgates are going to fly open if you grant the variance. I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. And again, you can certainly condition it. I mean, if we ever put the house on the market, the new system goes in, and I'm fine inspecting it every 2 years, 3 years for hydraulic failure.
Gotcha. And the current time frame within which you have to act is, we sent the letter in September?
September.
Yeah.
And what's the time frame?
It's
Because
until
it'll affect all 24
Yeah, it's to September 1st is the deadline.
12 months
this
from
year,
the
12
enactment of
months?
the regulation.
That's, I just
Exactly.
want to get 12 months.
12 months from the enactment of the regulation.
Mhm.
So, well, but the inspections could have occurred before or after the regulations, Paul. No?
We sent.
I just want to make sure I got the idea. So we enacted the regulation, and I gather we're here because we failed an inspection. And the inspection was before or after the regulation was effective?
Art Crowley, they are all from years past, like several years old.
We're
I
catching
mean, I
up.
don't.
Yeah,
I'd
we're
have to
catching
look
up.
at this inspection report, but I'm going to guess close to 8-9 years.
Gotcha. Well, that's helpful to understand.
So we don't know if you inspected it again tomorrow, maybe there would be a different. I mean, I have trouble just outright, I don't know what my colleagues would say, of approving this variance because there's some unknown factors for me here. Like one, we have 23, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Potential coming down the road. The fact that this was declared a failure was years ago. Years ago. For all we know, this is
The groundwater's receded 10 feet in the
yeah,
and the separation is
has that gone up
or gone up.
and up,
Yeah.
and therefore, if it went up, I would be even a little more reluctant to grant this variance because it might not be this 0.4 difference.
And Rhoda, I hear you on the size of the lot, but we know there's some other large lots down the road, and I don't know where they are. Are they in the 24 and so on? They may not all have as many acres, but there's some large lots. So we're talking about on a scale of gradation, you're talking about, a small lot to a large lot, and, where do you draw the line? And
Right.
so I would, one idea, Mr. Chairman, is not to act at all today, not to approve or disapprove, and ask for some further discussion and about where we're headed here, because in spite of the size of the lot, I think there are some large lots here down the road. Are they? It almost might be helpful to have a list of the 24 and where they are, and we know where we're headed here, because I think acting on the first one before we're fully informed is a mistake, and I'm not inclined to want to turn it down or approve it, quite frankly.
Could I just ask, the 24, I'm assuming, are non-property transfer parcels? These are just technical failures that, under the 64 regulation, would be required to upgrade to an IA within 12 months.
Yes.
That's correct. So this is the first application
This
of
is the
that
first.
group
Right.
of technical failures.
Correct.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
Paul.
okay.
So since this is the first, whatever we do here is going to set it
Okay.
a precedent.
And I think
And I
it
want
may
to
be
be fair.
semantics in the way that it's a variance request, but in a sense, Rhoda's not asking for a variance not to do what the regulation is saying. It's really a deferment
Right.
till the time. So, I mean, again, that may be semantics, but it's not really a variance that would say you're granting this property a variance. It will never have to upgrade to an IA system. It's really a deferment until such time as a property transfer.
It's almost like an administrative consent if the sewer was coming, but it's not.
It's not.
You could have an administrative consent for the alternative systems are coming. And you might have a time frame. I mean, Rhoda and Joe might live there for another year. They might live there for another, hopefully, 35 years, okay? And time becomes a part of this discussion, I think. So there are a lot of variables here. You could give a variance for 4 years. I'm just making something up. And that might have less impact on us than a variance forever when it might be 30 years, Rhoda. So we're in a tough spot. And that's
No.
why I don't think we should act today.
That's where I'm getting at.
The other question is, we could have 24 more people come in here with the same problem
They're going to come in.
and say, I'm never going to sell my house.
Yep.
And if they live 20, 30, 40 years, we have not taken care of the problem.
Jim, exactly. So the age of the applicant, just to get down to specifics here, does that become an issue? And that's a touchy subject.
And you said yours is a unique situation. I will tell you, all 24 people would be in here with unique situations.
Well, just to clarify it a bit, I mean, I know the neighborhood. I know the people that live there. I do not believe that you're ever going to... First of all, the letters went out almost a year ago. And I've been talking to Roberto and to Paul for months now about this. I mean, I didn't just sort of show up here today. I've been concerned about it for several months since I got the letter. I've talked to the DEP. I talked to the Mass Department in Boston. I talked to the DEP today, as a matter of fact. They never heard of this regulation, which I was stunned at. But anyway, they never heard that we changed everything in September. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is I thought the purpose of this board was to look at each unique situation and make a decision. But when you're telling me that you can't make a decision until the other 27 show up, I don't think that's really equitable. I don't think that's exactly what people get variances for. I mean, I think, you know, my understanding of getting a variance is you look at the facts before you, and I think you turn around and you make a decision based on those facts, and I think our fact situation is unique. I don't think you'll ever find another one like it. I mean, I know the 27 people that are on the list, so, I mean, you certainly can look at it, but, I mean, I know all the neighbors, I know who lives there. I mean, there aren't two people that live in a house that can have 36 bedrooms on their property. There just aren't, so...
But it's still a problem if you look at the facts. The facts say that she doesn't have the separation that she has to have. It's a failure. That's a fact.
And like as I said before, every time someone comes in for a variance on anything, it's usually something unique. And I respect your uniqueness, but someone else will have something else unique, and then we'll end up, we might as well have not passed Regulation 64.
Well, I think the regulations are important, and I certainly am happy to have it conditioned upon that. I mean, I'm not trying to get away from doing it. I think they're important. I've had a lot of clients that I've talked to about it and said they're important, but I do think our situation's unique. I don't know how else to say it.
When by regulation would you have to put in the new system?
Well, now.
Now.
Which, you know, soon.
Yeah, the permit would have to be pulled by September 1st of this year.
Well, I think my colleague to the left expressed better what I was thinking, and that I'm not sure I'm comfortable either way on this, because you make a very good argument, an excellent argument. However, I just don't want to start diluting Regulation 64. And as my colleague to the right said, the regulation is we can just say we will not accept the variance. So I would love to see a list of those others.
What is that going to do, though?
I'm not sure until I see it.
Not either.
I mean, you know, I think if we voted today, we would deny your variance. And if you would like us to do that, we're quite willing to do that.
No, I obviously don't want you to do that, so...
I said one question. The other 24, are they all technical failures? The separation, everyone.
Again, Paul Santos, could I just but Art, how many more have not been inspected yet? Do we know? You have 24 that you know are technical failures, but are there more properties that need to still be inspected as part of the new regulation?
Not sure what you're asking, but I would say you have your properties that have to be inspected every 5 years because they've got a conventional system. Okay, so those are in process according to their last inspection, if it was within 5 years. So we're in the process of doing that, but these technical failures have been in place for a number of years. We've known about it. And, you know, prior to September, there was no direction on what to do with the technical failures till we amended Regulation 64 to address them.
The 24 is a good, I mean, that's
solid.
Solid number.
Solid
Yes,
number.
solid number.
Yeah, I mean, we might,
Yeah.
if the area had 400 lots or parcels,
Yeah.
so many had been inspected before. You got to go 5 years from each of those, and so it would take a while to find out how many are likely to be inspected in the next 5 years. I mean, that wasn't the question, but that's sort of the way I'm thinking about it, Paul.
But every septic system that we're tracking has been inspected in Nantucket Harbor watershed. We're on a second round now.
Good.
So really, technical failures shouldn't change. We should have got it right the first time. I'm not going to say that there's no margin of error in there, but
It's unlikely that separation has changed.
Unlikely.
Yes.
All right, so the separation, it wouldn't do us any good to go back and repeat all that now. It's already been inspected. You're on your second round.
It was inspected, but the inspection was also based on the Horsley-Witten map from 30 years ago.
I think it was the soil evaluation.
The soil
data from
evaluation. Sorry, you're right.
1988.
The soil evaluation
The
from
soil is going to be
1988.
the soil.
So,
It hasn't changed.
well, no, they didn't read. We have different methods of reading groundwater these days than they did in 1988. It's a little more accurate.
All right. I'm going to get a sense of the board. We can, as suggested, put this off till next month and take a look at those 24, or we can just vote today.
Well, I'm not sure how to structure a motion under these circumstances, but I'm game to make a motion that we, as a board, continue the matter until our next monthly meeting.
Yeah, I don't want to delay this. When everyone starts talking about discussion, I get very nervous because that could go on forever. So the motion has been made that we delay this to the next meeting, and Art will get together kind of a list of those properties for us.
We can get that list. Yeah, we can get that list.
If you'd send it
easily
out
tonight.
before, just send it out.
Let's
before
share this with us and think about, because I think what we're trying to decide is if we do one, we're going to do them all. And It's going to be very hard not to do that.
That's why.
But we'll see.
I appreciate everyone's concern, and I think you make good arguments. Again, if I was to, it's got to be really quick, Paul, or we're going to go on.
Yeah, just very quick.
Real quick.
Just a point of information. So we've done a number of property transfers where they've upgraded IA systems, which there's basically two options. You could have a system that the system is not in technical failure, is functioning, but you just upgrade to the IA. Those have been anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 just for the IA component upgrade. Replacement of the system is then going to take it to a little bit higher. I was going to take it to a higher level, but that's kind of the numbers we're talking about. Like these would be to technically retrofit. You're probably in that $20,000 to $30,000 retrofit of the system.
May I ask just one question?
One question.
If you defer it, which obviously I would prefer that you do rather than turn it down, what's the process? You're looking at the 27 others to determine what the likelihood is that they're going to come before you, or I guess I'm not clear on that.
I would just as soon vote, but I think we try to work together as a board, and some of the board members would like to think about it and look at it, and look at the other properties and get a sense for it. So what we have before us is a motion essentially to defer discussion of the variance to the August meeting. July meeting.
Okay.
All right. And if by chance or whatever comes out, we would deny your variance, we would probably also give you a little more time than September 1st.
Just out of curiosity, because nobody seems to be able to give me an answer on this, what's the process if it's denied? What's the appeal process if it's denied?
The appeal process?
I called the state, I called
Filing it in
DEP,
court.
nobody knows. They've never...
The appeal to a Board of Health request is to Superior Court.
Okay. They told me it was local, so this morning at DEP. So...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything that you want me to do before the July meeting?
No.
And it's-
Your letter's fine. Your presentation's fine. I understand your position. It was well presented. And I think the sense of the board is they want to think about this a little bit. So I'll let them think about it.
Okay, no, I
I'm not a
appreciate
dictator.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, so any further discussion about delaying this to August and then the
July.
July.
You're trying to sneak 30 days in, Mr. Chairman.
I know. I'm sorry. And in the interim, we'll get the information from the health department. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, just for the record, I'll say no. We'll still carry.
Then you're consistent on where you were headed.
I want to be consistent, so it's.
That's good. I think that's fair enough.
Chairman votes no. The other three vote yes to delay it.
Okay.
Okay. Nitrogen aggregation plan for Hummock Pond Association.
Okay, so the Hummock Pond Association has applied for a nitrogen aggregation plan for their subdivision. There is an adjacent property that they're looking to use as credit land in order to prevent undersized lots in this subdivision. Right now, the way the subdivision was created, the lots, if we're strictly applying the 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet, are now undersized. This nitrogen aggregation will allow them to maintain the 4-bedroom septic systems. So I will let Mr. King explain.
Hi, Teddy King. Surveyor just here for technical questions or whatever we'd need. But Roberto definitely addressed it. There's 36 lots. They're all half acres. They all have 4-bedroom septic systems that were installed in 1981, all at once. There's large adjacent land that they'd like to use 13 acres that would equivalent them to, certify the 4-bedroom systems on each lot. They're all built out, and it's just clarifying what's already there.
So there are no failures or inspections that have caused other issues?
I don't believe we have any separation failures. There may be a few hydraulic failures that are trying to be fixed.
So they would be fixed in the normal course?
Yeah. Some of them are in the Hummock Pond B area.
Yeah, half are in B.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy, some of those, that was my subdivision, some of those people have added buildings onto those things. But are they just the additions of, what are they, 1 bedrooms? The house is 3 bedrooms, and the system are 4 bedrooms, so they've only added 1 bedroom on, so they're all in compliance now?
As far as I know, I don't believe there's anything bigger than a 4-bedroom system on any of those 36 lots.
But some of the additions, I know.
They definitely have a couple studios and garages. I have not inspected all. I do not know
Right.
that.
You haven't been inside to check that the den is a bedroom. Whatever it might have. So just to say it again, this is sort of like in my mind, it's like a grandfather situation in a way. If you had a similar situation today, you wouldn't be able to have 4 bedrooms on half-acre lots. It's that simple. But you've already got them, and I think you're asking. I'm not sure if someone has a failure, they get to use a conventional system
As
a replacement for 4 bedrooms on a half-acre. Is that sort of what we're asking for?
Yes, instead
As
of
opposed to an
IA.
alternative system if they have a failure.
Except in B.
Well, that's why we're here, because in B it's not allowed. That's the variance we're asking for. Because we're in the B
So
zone
we're
of
digging a
Hummock
little
Pond.
further down here to see what. So you have some of these lots are in B, none of them are in A, and some are not in anything.
Correct.
I see. Oh.
Roughly 18
So
and 18.
if the lots in the not in anything category, do you need to come to talk to us?
Not right now, but sometimes those zones expand.
So at the moment we're talking about B. I see. How many are in B?
Roughly a half, 18 and 18.
Got you.
So I'm a little confused. So basically, are you asking to use that land to increase the number of bedrooms?
No, it's just a equivalent. Right now we have 36 lots that are all half acres,
Right.
and they need more area to make 10,000 per bedroom to make everyone have 4. And so the 13 acres would just be a credit land that would equivalent plus all 36 lots add up to 1 per. Everyone having 4 bedrooms and having 10,000 for it.
So actually, they could all increase those houses by 1 more bedroom?
Nope.
No.
Nope. They're already 4s now, and they would stay 4s.
So that the buildings would not expand. There'd be no more building.
Right,
There
but
would be, yeah.
what he's trying to do in B is exempt from having to use an IA on repairs, and I'd like to remind the board that in Fisher's Landing,
Yes.
we had some situations, and Paul came in with 130 bedrooms that was still left in an aggregate plan. So we allowed the half-acre lots to go to 4 with an IA, and the vacant 10,000s go to 3.
Right.
So this, what he's trying to do is get a variance not to,
Well, then-
and use that, use the land. I would,
Although this land is built out, and that was
No,
vacant.
it doesn't matter.
So
What's
that's
the
a little
difference?
different.
well, it's not really.
Well, in terms of what the impact on the environment is, whether you do it on an existing lot or a new lot, it's the same thing.
Well, it's just that these systems have been in for 30 or 40 years, as is.
Right. So when a system fails in Fisher's Landing, which a lot of them have 4 and 5 bedrooms on 10,000 square feet or a half acre, when they repair it, they have to repair it with IA. It's not going to be any different than in Hummock Pond.
Right.
In Zone B. That's the reg.
I'm glad we brought that up. I remember that case because that was we had a lot of discussion.
We had a lot of
about that.
discussion. We were trading bedrooms and things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I remember
Boy.
that.
And here
Thank
you're
you,
talking
Steve.
about half the lots apparently are in B. So we got a lot of lots at stake here.
Hi, I'm Greg Russ. I'm from the Hummock Pond Association. Just to add to what Teddy's saying, so we own 56 acres of vacant land. We have 4-bedroom installed systems. We're just asking under the concept of an aggregate plan to count a portion of the 56 acres for the nitrogen absorption. That's all. And we're not saying if the systems fail for groundwater, some of these technical failures, they have to replace them. We're just trying to, we're asking to be able to replace them as traditional systems. All right?
Yeah,
And
well,
there's
that's
plenty of land. There's nothing you can be done with it. And
It's the
that's
same as
It's same as Fisher's Landing.
Fisher's
Yeah,
Landing
it-
subdivision.
Yeah, it's almost like the Pulposus request in a different way as well. You know,
Yeah.
so boy, it seems to me, I understand the acreage and all that stuff, but it's the water. I mean, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but the water's flowing. It's going down and it's going to Hummock Pond.
Well,
It's not finding its way to the empty acres.
if there was a failure, the new system would have to be put in to conform to the groundwater requirement.
Right.
So if there's a failure because of that, it would go away.
Yeah, but you're going to have to repair it with an innovative alternative if you're in
Yeah.
Zone B.
That's what we're asking to
Right.
a variance
so
for.
did, so did the Hummock Pond area. Fisher's
Fisher's
Landing. They
Landing.
wanted there was people that owned vacant lots. There's town water in there. Whether you're in town water or a well in a nitrogen zone, you need 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So what we basically did was devalued their lots, but they had 130 bedrooms left of aggregate credit in the existing green space. It was a cluster subdivision, but the board, we went through this many meetings. We finally gave the half-acre lots that were still vacant 4 bedrooms, but you had to use an IA. And there's a few 10,000 square foot lots. There's a couple 10,000 square foot lots in there that have 6-bedroom septics on them, conventionally. As soon as those fail or whatever, or town sewer goes out, they'd have to replace it with an IA if the town sewer doesn't come out. There's people that are in the same situation that you're in, and we.
yeah, I agree.
Can I just ask for an explanation of something? If a traditional system that's in place now doesn't fail, there's not an issue, right? We're in section B. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's right.
So if somebody has a traditional system that fails and repairs it so it no longer is failing with a traditional system by taking into the credit land just to allow it, where's the problem? The system no longer fails. It's not. We're not talking about getting a variance on those. A traditional system would be put in place, adding in the credit land, it's not failing. So there doesn't seem to be a groundwater issue, especially with all that open space.
Well, you're deemed, the line is the line. It's a nitrogen-sensitive line. You're deemed to be in a nitrogen zone, and the rules are different when you're in a nitrogen zone.
Yeah. And we're trying to minimize the nitrogen flow. So the whole idea here, it seems to me, has been that a regular system produces, I like to say, a pound of nitrogen. And we're trying to say that's too much when you add them all up. So when you're in B, you got to produce less. And the IA system is a way to do that. And our job is to protect the environment and the flow of nitrogen into the water. Right. In this case, Hummock Pond. So there is a benefit to switching to an IA system because roughly half the nutrients, as I keep hearing it, are going to flow from that system when it's repaired as an IA. If it's just repaired as a regular system, that pound is just flowing right away. And we're looking to get a half a pound from that lot under the circumstances. If we went along with this and all these kinds of things, we would never make the changes that we're trying to make, is to lower the nitrogen flow to Nantucket Harbor, or in this case to Hummock Pond. And we're trying to do it over time on a logical, consistent basis. And we set up regulations to do that. And if we start waiving everyone that comes in, we're not going to get to the end.
I fully understand your position.
Well, you asked for an explanation.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to be clear. That's very important.
But if the lots were 40,000 square feet, people would have the right to replace it with a traditional system in B, would they not?
No, not in B, no.
If you're in the watershed and you replace it, if
it has to be an IA system.
It's got to be an IA system.
Yeah.
You're in the watershed.
If the lot's 40,000, you're allowed 4 bedrooms, so that would be allowed.
Yeah, that's what
he's saying. If the lots were 1 acre, they're not.
Yeah.
For 4 bedrooms, but complete your sentence. If there's been a failure, it's a new lot. It's an IA. Right. If it's in the Harbor Watershed District.
So if a lot were 40,000 square feet and you were in B and it fails,
it's an IA system.
Regardless.
No. Yes.
No.
Not in B. In A.
If it's 40,000, you're allowed 4 bedrooms. And in any zone.
Right. Art, you're going
to. Yeah, I think you just get mixed up with the Nantucket Harbor Watershed regulations, which is a requirement from Gardner Road out, regardless of the size of the property. So within Hummock Pond and within Nantucket, we don't have that stipulation. So 1 for every 10,000. If they met it, then it would be a conventional system.
I apologize if I'm off.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
We get I think we understand. We get the aggregate thing. I'd say, great, you got 50-something acres there. Let if the people outside of Zone B wanted to put another 2-bedroom system on it, or add 2 more bedrooms, and Teddy could fit it in there and show an expansion, I'd say, go ahead, put a regular system in and make it 6 bedrooms, but not in Zone B.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any questions, board? I need a motion to approve or disapprove this variance.
Well, I think based on the discussion we've had, if the variance is related to Zone B, then I would move we deny the variance.
Yeah, exactly. So. The variance. Who made it? Right. Any further discussion in denying the variance is related to Zone B? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. The variance is denied.
Thank you.
All right. Millie's food trailer to leave for a week. Variance.
Same variance from last month.
I thought we did this.
We did and we didn't. 3 months in a row now. 2 months ago, we approved the variance to allow for a trailer at the Lobster Trap to be approved to bring back to base once a week for what they call deep cleaning. The trailer is large enough to hold over 55 gallons of wastewater, which is approximately a week's worth of wastewater in a small operation like that. We did approve a variance as a pilot, and we said we would review again in September. Last month, Mr. Cochran applied for the same variance with his truck. We denied that variance, or you as the board denied that variance on the basis that the truck was motorized and there shouldn't be an issue with returning back to base every day. So in this case, Millie's is back requesting us the same variance, this time with a trailer, a custom-made trailer. And they're asking for the same variance regarding the trailer that Lobster Trap received. I believe there's a representative from Millie's here today to present their case.
It's really straightforward. It's exactly what you mentioned. Our trailer is not quite the same size. It is not as large. After we put this on the docket for today, we're wondering, I mean, if once a week is not a possibility, everyone's chuckling, is twice a week a possibility? The brewery has changed their preference on where all these vehicles are on their property. It made sense for us to switch to the cart, which is not quite as large as our food truck. So, I don't know. We're open to any feedback. I don't know if once a week is remotely possible or if twice a week is.
But you have a trailer now?
It's a trailer now, yes.
For the record, they have 3 mobile food vendors, mobile food units, 2 of which are trailers, 1 is a motorized vehicle.
Millie's does.
Yes, Millie's.
So we moved the truck back to Millie's.
Oh, we need your name for the
Excuse me.
record.
Christian Broder. Christian Broder. We pulled the truck off the brewery that is parked at Millie's out in Nantucket, and that, along with this new food cart, the 3rd unit, will be used only for private parties. Probably not all that often. The brewery
That's
operation.
what the Board of Selectmen dealt with last night?
Correct.
So it was, gotcha. I didn't catch on that it was sort of a converted truck.
I figured there was going to be
I mean, that's
some
okay,
confusion.
but I just, yeah.
So is Millie's a restaurant now? Or not Millie's, or is the brewery a restaurant now?
The brewery does not have any commercial kitchen. They don't provide any food that they produce themselves.
I was comfortable last month because you could come back and forth.
Sure.
And the whole idea when we granted that first variance, we were a little uncomfortable with it, but it sounded at least we could see how it went until September as kind of a pilot. And I think if you go back and read the minutes of that meeting, we were clear that we would check it again. I just am uncomfortable having yet another trailer there when we really haven't made an evaluation of how the first one worked.
Can we get some feedback on how that's actually going from Art or Kathy?
Kathy has been doing the inspections. And also, for the record, there is already another request for next month from another mobile food vendor.
So, Kathy LaFave, for the record. Millie's, I haven't really looked at their new application, but for the Lobster Trap, I've had 3 weeks inspection. 1 week they were not there. The second week it was not clean, and last week it was pretty good, but there were still some issues with it. So that's the history on that one. Okay. For the other one, which is Jesse's, he has not given me a time to return to his base. I'm having trouble. I'm struggling with him as well. And that's the 167 raw.
I was gonna, is that one at the brewery too, or that's someplace
this
else?
No, this is
the fish market.
Yeah,
The fish market on Hummock Pond Road.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
They're applying for the same variance come next month.
Yeah.
All right, any comments? Any comments from the board? I mean, I think I expressed my opinion before. We did the first one as kind of a trial, and it doesn't sound like it's been a perfect trial. And I'm very uncomfortable of doing it again. And I just keep getting the sense that next thing you know, The brewery will have multiple trucks.
You know, and I'd like to state for the record that I was a little uncomfortable, even though we gave it the last time, and I know that trailer of the lobster wraps is so big, and scheduling appointments with Kathy, wasting her time, they don't show up, the trailer's not there, it's already become an issue. And believe me, that thing is not easy to get in where it is, where they're parking.
Okay. Any other?
Not that this one is, you know, it's
Any
a lot
other
smaller.
discussion? Do I have comments? I mean, I think my opinion is I'm clear on this one, and I'm just uncomfortable.
So sort of the whole idea, I guess, just a general comment is that mobile food units are supposed to be mobile. Mobile, that's the word, right? It's the operative word, and these are something else in disguise.
Yes.
And so I'm I think we just have to call it what it is, and not be inclined to give any waivers for them. They're supposed to be mobile or something.
The question is, what are we going to do with the one that we have granted?
Well, you wait till the end of the test period.
So I think in the September agenda it should be a formal.
The
item.
variance could be revisited at any time.
Yeah, if they're not, let's go back on that. I mean, I said to the end of the period, but clearly, like with any permit we issue, if the permit holder is not complying or up to snuff, the board can revoke the permit.
Well,
so
right. I think that that we should put on the August agenda a formal review of the lobster traps variance,
okay,
and give you time to, you were kind of had to ad lib a little bit. That will be a formal review, and we can decide if we want to go forward with that. And that now we need a motion to approve or disapprove the variance requested by Millie's.
I'd motion to disapprove it.
Second the motion.
Any further discussion? The motion is to disapprove the variance for Millie's. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. The variance is not approved. Now we have some 74
Yes.
Arkansas.
74 Arkansas. This property has been before you before. The owner applied for a betterment loan in order to install an IA system on their property. They received the loan, started working on the property, drew some plans. There's some invoices that you'll see in there, and then changed their mind. Now the owner wants to enter the ACO and return what is left from the betterment loan. She has spent approximately, I think it's $7,000 from what we had given her. So what they're asking for is to return what is left from the betterment and then enter the ACO instead.
And do a temporary fix, or
and that $7,000 is where is that?
Spent on consulting and some design work. It is my duty to remind the board that when the administrative consent order was issued to us by the DEP, one of the conditions is that a betterment loan cannot be issued to pay for ACO work. So they would have to pay back all of the betterment before they enter the
get
ACO.
an ACO.
So this is one of those condominium deals?
Yeah.
Any comments? I have a sense that we should deny the ACO request until you get back your 7,000, not your 7,000.
But the town's
Town's 7,000?
the entire balance of the
Whatever
betterment.
that balance is. So I go ahead.
He's saying that they don't want to pay the $7,000 back.
That's what they're requesting. The 7,000 is going to be going on the taxes, and the town's going to get it back anyway because they signed the terms of the loan. What the owner is asking for is to not pay back the $7,000 at this time, and roll that into the ACO,
How much was
which
the
I believe 23.
But we can't do that, can we?
But we can't do that. It's a condition of the
It's a condition, so,
of the ACO.
so we just can't do it. Does it even have to come before the board? Because it can't be done.
We
Can't be done.
explained it multiple times. This is the reason it's in front of the board is because they are appealing the decision of the town,
Well,
of
then
the department.
I would need a motion not to approve the ACO request. And part of that is, yeah, and then by nature, that's all we really have to do.
Mhm.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor of not approving the ACO request for 74 Arkansas, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. The request is denied.
Am I happy today?
Variance of Brewster Road,
So
34 Brewster Road. We're back to Brewster Road.
Yes, this is actually, if I believe, right down the street from the last
Yes, I know.
variance. This property owner is requesting to install a 5-bedroom septic system on a 40,000 square foot lot until such time that the sewer comes across Brewster Road. I believe Mr. Swain is here to discuss the details.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Swain, attorney for Carl Goldberg and Kathy Trussman. They own 34 Brewster Road. They have so since 2003. At that time, it was the common practice and policy of the Board of Health to issue bonus bedrooms for parcel owners that installed an innovative alternative system. So I believe that policy was abandoned about a year ago. But in between the time when they purchased the property in 2003 and up until the time when the policy was abandoned, they had, in good faith, relied on the policy of being awarded a additional bedroom for installing a IA system. So they had put together plans and worked with builders and relied on that policy. And as Roberto said, the sewer is going to be coming out into that area in some point in 2018. My clients haven't broken ground on the property yet, so realistically what they're looking for is just a temporary variance with conditions to have a 5-bedroom system servicing the property between the time that their house is habitable and the time that the sewer is available. So just to be clear, the specific request is for a variance for a 5-bedroom system on the condition that they abandon the system properly and connect to the sewer when it does become available.
They have started building the house now, right? 34 Brewster?
I'm not sure as to
Yes.
the status of the house.
No, they.
Why don't they just build 4 bedrooms and wink and a nod? We wouldn't have to. I don't know. Are there 10 other lots on Brewster where we're going to have this before the sewer gets
Did we
there?
discuss Brewster before? Am I getting confused?
We discussed Brewster and in the event of a uninhabitable home that is
Oh, so this
abandoning the
I'm
house.
sorry, I'm getting confused. It's like July and
So
August.
here's 44 looks like it's vacant on the map. I don't know if it is, but
All right, so the sewer's
right there.
anticipated
Here's
18
or so.
or so.
Yeah, we really won't know how long it's going to take until all the surveying is complete. The surveying is really pivotal because that's how we'll know if it's going to be what are going to be gravity lines, what are going to be low pressure lines, location, size, whole 9 yards.
I mean, can they design the house? Can they design the house as a 4-bedroom house with an office? And then when the sewer comes in, change it to a bedroom? I mean, legally, you can have a 4-bedroom house with a 4-bedroom septic system and an office.
Right.
I guess that's a question for the designer. I mean, what this comes down to is that they reasonably and fairly relied on the policy for over a decade, up to 12 or 13 years, that if they applied for an IA system, they'd be awarded the extra bedroom, and they did apply for and were awarded an IA permit.
So they'd
Is-
rather
it-
not.
This isn't something that they knew they were getting themselves into, and now we're looking for special treatment. It's a matter of fairness that
Right, but
it's been going on for so long that.
With the original plans they submitted for the permit, which, I'm sure we probably grandfathered them in with the IA.
Art, you
You have to assume that the difference here is to ask to save the money.
So I did approve a IA permit for 4 bedrooms at this property, and whether the policy of the board was to give bedroom credits. This application wasn't made till after
September 15th.
Yeah. After you had already made it. Wasn't like they had a permit 2 years ago.
Right.
They got a permit after you
okay.
guys had
I thought it
made
might
that.
have been before. That's what I was getting at.
No, it wasn't. It was after.
Which, in good faith, we granted those variances to those people in North Road.
Those that were done
5 and 9
before.
North
That we're
Road.
trying to.
Steve, the regulations went into effect September 1st, 2015. This permit was issued, I believe, September 28th. So the planning and everything up into the point where the permit was issued was based on the fact that the prior course of dealing with the Board of Health, and also the customary policy, what had been going on for at that time when they were planning on putting together this plan for the property. And it's just for a window of time. This isn't to go into perpetuity. It's just until to bridge the gap in between when the sewer is available.
All right.
Right. Well, I get what you're asking for, but now you're asking for an extra bedroom, just even though it's temporary and going to be conventional. It's.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great system, and it's not going to have any detriment. Once the sewer comes in, it's something that's going to be built within the specifications, and then abandoned properly a year and a half down the road.
Yeah. So I think Mr. Cooper made an excellent recommendation for you. No, seriously, I understand.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't need to be here.
Oh.
But anyway.
Any other comments?
I think doing what I said just would cover everything and everybody would be happy.
Well, I don't know if Art could speak to this, but I mean, if I've run into this problem before where there's a studio and that gets counted as flow calculations. Is that correct, Art? So I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
We're kind of walking a tightrope if we went down that direction, and I can't really speak to an expertise for that matter. I'm not an architect or an engineer.
You're right. There used to be a room count exercise.
As far as that is concerned, the rooms have to meet the definition of a bedroom set by Regulation 50. To discuss office use and storage and unfinished basements, things like that, every regulation is going to have a loophole here and there. We tried to make our regulations as tight as possible as to avoid offices being used as bedrooms, which is why the room counts are so strict.
No, I didn't say that. I said don't use it.
Yeah, don't use it as a bedroom, of course.
Don't put a closet in it. Don't do anything. Just use it as an office. And then when the sewer comes,
But
you go to the building department and say all you have to do is I've got a couple of people doing that. They have an office. And all of a sudden they want to go to the building department. They get a permit to put a closet in it. And change the use on the CO from 5 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms.
Correct, and then that's absolutely correct. And the other part is too, if the house has more than 9 rooms, bedroom count, I mean, the room count wise, we're going to count it as a 5-bedroom house if it has 10 rooms or more.
The particular occupancy of how my clients will use the house is to say they're seasonal residents would be an overstretch. They're hardly ever there. Selected weekends through the year and maybe a couple of weeks in the summer, so there's almost no risk in them and overburdening the system for a year or two.
One more comment, Art. You seem to want more, and then we'll decide what to do.
I would just say through the bedroom count and the way we do structures, they could have their garage and finish the second floor later. They could have their pool cabana, not put a bathroom in it, and finish it later. There's certain things they can do to get their structures up and still meet the septic system requirement.
Mm-hmm. That, absolutely correct.
When you go to get a building permit, don't you have to have your septic permit before you get your building permit?
We sign off on all of it.
If the septic thing can only be 4 bedrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can I get a 5-bedroom plan approved by the HDC?
No,
They're not. No, they can't. We do a bedroom count on all the permits, every permit.
And you say you have clients that have been doing this.
Right now.
Well,
Essentially, when the sewer comes, we'll...
one of the problems, is when you have financing, you have to, the bank looks at your proposal and they make sure that what you say your financing is actually done. So to sort of shift things around and sort of not trick, I don't want to, that's kind of the wrong word to say, but you have to complete projects in accordance with the specifications that you submitted to the lender within accordance of the terms of your loan.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused. I just need you to straighten me out on one thing. They can't get a building permit until they get the septic permit, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
correct.
so
I believe.
the septic permit said what, 4 bedrooms?
Yeah.
So if they have a septic permit that says 4 bedrooms and they go to the building department, how can the building department issue them a permit for a 5-bedroom house when they know they only have a 4-bedroom septic system?
They won't. They will not.
They won't.
Yeah.
What would happen is we'd be issued a secondary dwelling permit, and that's the reason for this variance.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Right.
know.
So I mean, once the sewer comes, you could have 10 bedrooms over there. I mean,
Yeah, whatever zoning and DPW decides to limit them to.
All right, Art, make a comment, then we're going to make a decision.
The owner was at the perk test and was well aware he was limited to 4 bedrooms on this property, and this is well before his building permit.
the septic.
All right.
The sewer comes in.
I need a motion to approve or deny the permit or the variance.
Would it change? Well, would it change the board's mind if it were to go from a conventional to an IA system?
If you wanted to put an IA system in
A 5-bedroom IA as
a
opposed
5-bedroom
to
IA and then 2 years
abandon it?
abandon it?
I mean, the first preference is to have the 5-bedroom conventional in the gap between when the house is habitable and when the sewer is available to connect. Alternatively, if it seemed like the board wasn't going in that direction, would the board consider B, having a 5-bedroom IA then to be abandoned when the sewer is available?
Nitrogen calculation wise, that's the equivalent of only 2.5 bedrooms.
What's this now? If they had an IA system for the 5 bedrooms?
Overall nitrogen reduction of 50% would be less than a 4-bedroom conventional.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It would be less.
It'd be
Much.
less. It'd be much less.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from our perspective as worrying about nitrogen balance, we're all in favor of reducing all the nitrogen we can. So if we could reduce the nitrogen by 50%, that would make us extremely happy and we could get on with our lives. But that would be quite a decision for your client to undertake an IA system for 2.5 years.
I mean, what if you can explain, like, what is the board's position with the conventional system?
I'd leave it. I would personally just say it'd have to be 4. 4
Okay.
bedrooms.
Could
The fifth.
it seems that wasn't going to get approved, and the IA could. So could we carry this over to the next meeting so I could run that by my client?
If you're willing to do that. Any objections?
I'm not in objection to that, no.
We always like to find a reasonable solution to as many problems as we
I mean,
can.
It's got a time frame, and the nitrogen calculation is going to be less than they do on a conventional system with 4 bedrooms. So
Yes. I mean, that sounds fine to me, but I just,
Okay, I
that's
can't
your
sp-
decision.
Yeah,
It's not
no,
my decision.
I need to speak to my client on that
Speak to
behalf.
client. We would be very happy to have less nitrogen in the harbor.
Okay,
All right?
great.
Okay?
I'll see you July.
July.
Great.
July,
All right.
not August.
Take care. Thank you.
Yes, July. Thank you. Wow. The next two are more formalities. Number 10 is the authorization of the tax collector to act as our agent to release betterment loans, and then 11 would be the release of a betterment loan. So these two together, what it comes down to is every time that a betterment loan is fully paid off, the Board of Health would have to vote to release the betterment, to release the lien on the betterment loan.
Right.
The tax collector is actually asking for us to allow her to do that in-house. So that's what number 10 is. And then number 11 would be one of those releases that we have to formally vote on to release the lien on the property.
So the first one, you're looking for a motion that we would delegate our authority
Just for the release
this
of betterments.
specific issue, releases for the
Betterment
loans
Mhm.
to the
Tax collector.
Not necessarily any need for us to know when it's.
No,
I don't, it would make,
Would make, that's,
that'd be fine with me. So I need a motion for us to approve the tax collector as our agent of sense to deal with the release of betterment loans.
I'll make that motion.
Sure. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved.
Okay, so I'll let her know. And then number 11 is exactly what we were just talking about. 13 Mass Ave, the betterment has been fully paid off. So the process would be is that I need a signature from all 5 of you to release that loan, which is why the
Okay.
process was of all that is
You
there.
could have held it for a month, and we wouldn't have to do that.
Exactly.
That's okay. I'm just,
Then what's 12?
12. Yes.
Correction, Land Court.
Mr. Jennison had done an ACO document and a betterment agreement, 2 separate properties for the properties that they own. When they went to record it onto their land court document, it turns out that the trust that the properties were held in had actually expired. So when they went to renew their trust, the clerk of courts did not allow them to renew it under the same name, because it had been expired for so long and they had missed their grace period. So they had to change the name of the trust that all these properties are held on. So as a result, in order to record that property, we need to have a new document providing the right name. So it's really the same thing. It's a formality of a correction.
Okay. Cool.
is this really Jennison or is it Jemison?
It's Jennison.
Jennison. Just the name of it.
Yeah, it's Ted Jennison and his brothers.
Fish market.
The fish market. Yes.
Ah, thank you.
Also.
So,
So we have something to sign.
Artel has it.
Okay.
All
And while we're
right.
doing that, the last one is. Thank you. Ernie could explain.
Boy, I hope you enjoyed the meeting, Ernie.
Freezing. It's so dang cold. I forgot how cold it is.
It is
Here.
We
cold
should have
in
put
here.
you at the beginning. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've forced people to sit through con meetings through longer than this. So what can I say?
He can be a mean chair, so he.
But this issue was brought up, and I'm not going to start talking about the. We need to reduce the deer population on this island for a lot of reasons, and Ernie had a suggestion.
Well, Mass Audubon has a statewide policy against hunting on all our sanctuaries, and that includes the Nantucket properties. Now, in reality, we've got several properties on the island. The biggest one is out by the Nantucket and Sankaty golf clubs. It's around 900 some acres, and I sort of have a don't ask, don't tell policy out there because it abuts land bank and foundation property, and people don't know. It's not marked well, so people don't know where they are. But the other properties, particularly the Lost Farm Sanctuary off Hummock Pond Road, I closed that for hunting because there's so much pedestrian traffic out there and people out there. But what I would like to do is to get our properties on Nantucket open to hunting, and we are considering it for certain properties, but they're not really thinking about Nantucket at our headquarters yet. And I was kind of hoping if the Board of Health would write a letter, stating that your efforts to reduce the deer population on the island, and it would be helpful if our almost 1,000 acres was formally open to hunting to allow that property to take part in the deer reduction effort as well.
Yeah.
And I have, my reasons for doing it are both to, the Lyme disease. I've had it at least twice, maybe 3 times. And the deer are also just really hard on a lot of our native plants. They love some of our rare plants. As soon as they flower, they go in and eat all the flowers right off of them. And so they're a problem from the overall conservation effort as well. So I'm hoping the board will approve that letter and send it off to my superiors.
Thank you. So you have attached, I drafted a letter that was attached to your package. Yeah. Essentially.
Do you have a map of all the areas?
Not with me, no. I'm sorry.
It's available?
I could send you one. Yeah, I could email it to Malcolm or something.
And I'll pass it on.
Okay.
So anyways, the letters, anyone has any questions about the letter or objections to it?
No, I just thought one thing we might, the letter's great, we might at some point, I didn't quite see it stated, that we might, in place of one of the we's, we should say the Board of Health.
Yeah, you're right. I got a little.
It could be in the last paragraph or someplace.
Yeah, because we say we and then it's just one person signing.
Right.
I'll fix that.
Otherwise, hopefully it's helpful. So.
Okay, then I will make that correction. I will change the we's and I'll get it off to you and put it on stationery.
Okay.
See, there's a lot of we's.
You have to do them all, just one.
Yeah, they don't know who we are.
Yeah, right.
Well, listen, I thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
because, at 40, 45 per square mile, everyone says even for the good of the deer, they should be about 10 per square mile. Mm-hmm. And we have a long ways to go.
They must still be finding food to eat. They all have twins. I mean, I'm always amazed. Every doe you see has got two fawns behind her right now, so they're still finding food to eat out there.
I know. Well, anyways.
They must love landscape plants is all I can say.
Everyone loves Nantucket.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks again.
Well, thank you for initiating this. I appreciate it.
Glad to. Thanks. We'll just now keep our fingers crossed that it does some good.
Yeah. Well, the hunters will be pleased.
Okay.
All right.
Then just the director's report. That's not the director's report. Forgot
yes.
about that.
Director's report.
So just one last thing. The mice presentation went really well. There's been a pretty open discussion on social media. I suggest we look at it. What I've been just trying to do is tell people, watch the video. Please watch the video. It is on the Nantucket Mess website. It is on there. For people watching at home, watch the video about the mice before you engage in a discussion that can be a little detrimental to the island. There have been some commentary and some misinformation. Some people believe that we're going to be releasing rats on the island, not mice, for example. So I've been pushing people to watch the video before they make commentary like that. We have 2 interns working this summer. One of them was actually detained by a family emergency, so she is not here right now. The other is Abigail Silber. She is from BU. She's getting her master's in public health and global health. She was actually the same intern that we had last year as well. She's working on her practicum now. It's one of the integral parts of the master's program. They have been doing excellent work right now. I have them working on water quality, housing outreach, and biodegradable packaging outreach, Lyme disease. They're working on all of our campaigns right now to get all that information out. I know Abigail's main project for this summer will be working on housing issues and how it disproportionately affects the minority populations and the Nantucket shuffle issue on the island, a lot of the housing inequality and disparity. So we'll be looking forward to seeing the report on that. Ms. Osbelt, she is from the University of Georgia. She is an undergraduate student working on environmental health. She is here through the CDC and the National Environmental Health Association summer internship program. Her main project will be working on water quality. We have her already scheduled to go out once or twice with Natural Resources to do some of the water quality testing out in the harbor and in the Nantucket Sound and Hummock Pond as well, and looking at the basics about the fertilizer, eutrophication, things like that, and the issues on our water body. Right now there's a lot of outreach work. I also have the septic system and fertilizer brochure that Mr. Williams and the Pond Coalition has put into the Inquirer and Mirror, and then the two brochures, one on biodegradable packaging and one on ticks, as well as a flyer on biodegradable packaging that Ms. Silber created. All three of these are their work, and I'll be passing it over to you for your review. It's very high quality work. We're really happy to have them here working as our force multiplier.
And how will this all be distributed?
So what we're looking to do is with the biodegradable packaging, we're going to try to distribute this to every one of them as soon as possible electronically. I'll be once this gets approved by you and the town manager.
This would be like to all the license holders?
All the license holders, correct. We will also be distributing it at the time of inspections. And then once the renewal time comes around, we will be putting this biodegradable packaging flyer with every renewal packet. So as people renew their permits, they will be getting a copy of this flyer. And the brochure will also be available in the office and at any outreach event we end up having. The tick brochure we're looking to have on the website as well. We are currently working on PSAs for ticks, sunscreen, mosquitoes, other types of safety issues that are on the island. This brochure will be a great starting point for the talking points and for outreach and education to the people on the island.
Roberta, I think it would be helpful for, at least I think for the Board of Selectmen and maybe lots of other boards around town to get an email which had copies of these and a little blurb on how we're distributing them. I think it's going to go to a lot of people, and it would alert, the planning board or the Board of Selectmen or others that this is going to hit their constituencies.
Sounds good.
So that would be helpful.
The Ms. Osbelt is also working on a letter to homeowners regarding fertilizer. She's also created a draft of a flyer for why it's important to fertilize correctly and basic bullet points on the best management practices for homeowners to follow as well. We're going to see if we can get that also sent out via the tied to either the water bill or the tax bill as well. So that way,
water bill, that's once a month.
Exactly.
We had taxes for a while.
Yeah, but it's a way to get it out to every property owner. The tax bill is actually a little bit more reliable because not everyone is on town water.
That's true.
So that's why the tax bill was a little bit more on our radar.
And the biodegradable issue, you said at some point you're going to start looking at the regulations?
Yes.
I mean,
right now what we have is the flyers that we have is to connect to the current regulations that we have.
Right.
We have a certain amount of exemptions, certain things in there. We definitely want to look at the regulations again to set up another drop dead date, which in this case will be September 1st, and then more or less tease out exactly what it is that we want them to do. Right now, because the biodegradable packaging, technically any organic material can biodegrade. It's just a matter of time and environment. So what we're going to want to do is look at the regulation as to define that, what we define as biodegradable. My opinion would be to define it as compostable, but it's a discussion for the board moving forward. And I'll try to get a draft of that as soon as I can.
Yep. Good.
And the compostable is because it's quicker. Is that?
Yes.
Make sure I get the idea here.
The BPI World, they certify. I forgot what their Biodegradable Products Institute. That's what it is. Biodegradable Products Institute. They certify specific products and specific manufacturers. It's actually on the back of the flyer. To go to their website so you can find out who exactly is certified. They only certify compostable material because it's the type of material that can be broken down within 180 days in an industrial composter. Our composter is a little bit smaller scale. It's not the large commercial composter. So what it would do is these compostable materials can break down in our composter, but in other, quote, biodegradable materials won't break down in our composter. So the ones certified by BPI will.
So if some of these go into our composter, they're still going to come out the other end and get wrapped up in the plastic bin or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. Whereas if it's certified by this independent certification company, by the time it comes out on the other side of the composter, it's pure dirt.
Good. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Questions from the board?
Yes.
Could I ask that on the August meeting we have a report from the hospital?
I can actually do that report in July. I don't have the number in front of me, but I'll have Stephen email me. He emailed me the number already. I didn't bring it. It is.
And I'm assuming those are going to be hospital numbers, not physician offices.
It'll be hospital numbers. What Mr. Tidd sends to me is just a monthly report. What he's been sending me right now is just the general illnesses that we've been seeing on the island. There have been some of the more feared mosquito-borne diseases on the island already. Luckily, all of them have been imported cases from where people were in an endemic country or in an endemic county and came back with the illness. It's not that they got the transmission here. So there has been Zika seen on the island. There has been dengue seen on the island. And there also has been chikungunya. All three of those are vector-borne diseases by the same mosquito, same type of mosquito, the Aedes aegypti and the Aedes albopictus. However, they've all been imported from people who have vacationed in Puerto Rico or in South Florida or in other areas like that. So I'll be able to compile that number for you for the July meeting.
I'd love to see it. Okay, so we're going to next month again look at the lobster trap and truck. What else did we say we were going to do?
We have
the variants from.
We've got two variances coming.
Two
variance requests coming back, and the first one you're going to send the board some information.
Yes, we have to send you the information on 24 technical failures in the watershed past Gardner Road.
Right.
Pretty specific area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hearing no objections, we will adjourn.
All right.